My sister was trapped in a sham marriage. She was already 3 months pregnant when she discovered the groom had a male lover. I tried desperately to stop the wedding, but my mother slapped me to the ground. She pointed her finger in my face and yelled, "You can't even manage to get married yourself, yet you can't stand to see your own sister find happiness? What kind of person does that make you?" With tear-filled eyes, my sister threw herself into the groom's arms and sobbed pitifully. "You've been jealous of me since we were kids, and now you even want to ruin my wedding day." I became a pariah, scorned and condemned by everyone. In the end, my brother-in-law orchestrated my death, burying the truth forever. Welcome to Panda Storyboard. Put on your headphones, get cozy, and settle in. Let's enjoy this story together. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like. Now, let's begin. When I opened my eyes again, my younger sister was looking at me with a blissful expression. "Sis, I'm pregnant. I'm planning to marry Troy. Will you give us your blessing?" I decided to let go of my savior complex and simply laugh at the absurdity of fate. This time, I just offered a fate smile. "Of course, you two are perfect for each other." I sat on the sofa at home, legs crossed, raising an eyebrow as I watched my sister nestled in our mother's arms. With a mysterious look on her face, she announced to everyone that something big was about to happen. Everyone played along, their faces full of anticipation. It was a picture of domestic bliss, peace, and universal joy. Yet amidst the laughter and cheer, no one knew I had already died once, killed by my sister's future husband, Troy. I was the only one who knew about his affair, and the other person was a man. In my past life, on the day of my sister's wedding, I heard the unmistakable sounds of two men being intimate, coming from the fitting room. Peering through a gap in the sheer curtain, I saw the best man, Jace, wearing my sister's wedding gown. One arm wrapped around Troy's neck, his expression dazed. Meanwhile, my sister Lynn was in the main hall, greeting friends and family who had traveled from afar. She was already 3 months pregnant at the time. I couldn't just stand by and watch her be tricked into a lavender marriage, so I caused a scene to stop the wedding. But all I got in the end was a furious slap from my mother. She pointed her finger right in my face and screamed, "So what if you don't want to get married yourself? Do you have to be so bitter that you can't stand to see your own sister happy? What kind of person does that make you?" With tears welling in her eyes, my younger sister threw herself into Troy's arms and sobbed, her voice thick with hurt. "You've always been jealous of me, ever since we were kids. You've never wanted anything good for me, and now you're trying to ruin my wedding too. If Troy were really gay, how could I possibly be pregnant with his child?" Troy gently patted my sister's back, offering soft words of comfort, before turning a cold, hard gaze on me. "Tiana, I'll call you sister like Lynn does, because I want you to know we're deeply in love. We want our relationship blessed by everyone who cares for us. If you're determined to make a scene here today, then I'll have no choice but to call security and have you escorted out." I looked at Jace in disbelief. There he was, dressed in a sharp suit, with his arm around his date, watching the whole thing with an amused look on his face. In the end, I became the object of universal scorn, a jealous wretch, a jinx denounced by all. Not long after, to rid himself of the trouble for good, Troy had me killed. But he never expected that I would be reborn. I was still lost in thought, when a gentle shake of my body forced my mind back to the present. I looked closely at Lynn, beaming with happiness, asking me, "Sis, I'm pregnant. I'm planning to marry Troy. Will you give us your blessing?" This time, I just offered a faint smile. "Of course, you two are perfect for each other." The next day, the parents from both sides formally met. Mother spent the entire morning getting ready, striving for perfection down to the last strand of hair. However, when the time came, Troy showed up with only Jace by his side. He offered an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, Auntie. Lynn must have told you already, but my parents passed away when I was very young. This is Jace. We grew up together in the orphanage. He's the closest person to me, and I specifically brought him to meet you." Jace had captivating almond-shaped eyes, the outer corners slightly downturned, the inner corners elegantly upturned, a rare and striking beauty. He didn't say much, just gave my mother a sweet, obedient smile. "Hello, Auntie." Troy was also handsome and charming. My mother was delighted. With my sister acting as the social glue, they chatted back and forth, happily discussing their bright future. I was the only one who saw it. as Troy and my sister held hands, fingers interlocked, sharing a smile. Beneath the table, the toe of Jace's shoe hooked around Troy's leg, inching its way upward. I couldn't help but let out a silent, cold laugh. Jace seemed to catch my gaze. He wasn't the least bit embarrassed. In fact, he gave me an almost imperceptible wink. In an instant, his smiling eyes transformed into a clear, tranquil pool of jade green water. How could my naive, love-struck sister ever outsmart someone like him? Yet this is exactly what I wanted to see. I know all too well that my tragic fate in my past life was inextricably linked to Lynn. How could the brakes suddenly fail on a car that was just serviced 3 days ago? If Troy tampered with my car, how could he have gotten his hands on my keys? I live alone and only had one spare set made, which I gave to my mother for emergencies, and my mother dotes on my younger sister. If my sister asked for them, my mother wouldn't dream of refusing. We're from the same mother, yet I have no doubt that if Lynn pointed at my mother and told the old hag to drop dead, she'd just throw a fit, make a scene, threaten suicide, and eventually jump off the 18th floor of her own accord. If I get a second chance at life, my greatest wish is to see their household descend into chaos with no peace ever again. May all who have betrayed me meet a bitter end. After the meal, they decided to wander around the mall. At their first meeting, Troy was very attentive to his future mother-in-law. With his arm around Lynn, he had a knack for charming my mom and making her beam with just a few words. Basking in her bubble of happiness, Lynn quipped, "Perfect timing. My sister is still single. Let's get Jace and her together. That would make us family twice over." Even though she claims she doesn't want marriage or kids, what woman doesn't end up taking care of a husband and raising children? She tilted her head to look at me and continued with a smile. "Sis, no offense, but you're not getting any younger. If you put in the effort now, someone might still be interested. Wait a few more years until you're past your prime and lonely, and no one will want you. Just don't come running to my place every other day then." Hearing that, I also smiled and said, "Lynn, don't worry. I don't have a habit of rummaging through trash cans." Lynn's expression changed, but to save face, she didn't make a scene. But Troy's face visibly darkened. He spoke less and treated her much more coldly. Jace just moved a little closer to him. Tired from walking around, Lynn suggested going to see a movie. Even my mother, who usually resisted new things, surprisingly agreed. They picked a slow burn, gently unfolding romance. Partway through the movie, Troy and Jace excused themselves to use the restroom and left together. After a moment's hesitation, I followed them out. It was a weekday, so the cinema was fairly empty. I walked lightly, and finally, near the emergency stairwell exit, caught the faint sound of ragged breathing. Moving closer, I saw the silhouettes of 2 men entwined. Jace winced and mumbled something. Troy responded in a low voice, soothing and apologetic. The scene was intimate, undeniable. I pulled out my phone and silently recorded everything. This was my insurance policy, my proof. When I had enough footage, I quietly slipped back to the theater. The movie ended, and we all went our separate ways. Troy drove Lynn home, being the perfect gentleman. My mother gushed about what a wonderful match they made. I said nothing. I just smiled and nodded along. Over the following weeks, wedding preparations kicked into high gear. Lynn was radiant, glowing with the joy of impending motherhood and marriage. My mother fussed over every detail: the venue, the flowers, the guest list. Troy played his role perfectly. The devoted fiancé, the soon-to-be father, the responsible young man. And Jace? He stayed close. Always there as Troy's best friend, his brother from the orphanage. I watched it all unfold like a theatrical performance. The actors knew their lines, hit their marks, and the audience, my family, ate it up. But I wasn't part of the audience anymore. I was the director this time, orchestrating events from behind the scenes. The wedding day arrived. It was a grand affair, elegant venue, expensive decorations, hundreds of guests. Lynn looked beautiful in her white gown, though I noticed she'd had to have it altered to accommodate her growing belly. Troy stood at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo. Jace was beside him as the best man, looking equally sharp. The ceremony began, and everything seemed picture-perfect. I sat in my designated seat, watching calmly. My mother was already crying tears of joy. Other family members smiled and whispered about what a lovely couple they made. The officiant began the traditional vows. "Do you, Troy, take Lynn to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Troy's voice was clear and confident. "I do." And do you, Lynn, take Troy to be your lawfully wedded husband? Lynn's voice trembled with emotion. I do. If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. The officiant paused, as was customary. No one said a word. The silence stretched, and I could see the relief on Troy's face. Just as the officiant opened his mouth to continue, the large screens positioned around the venue, meant to show romantic photos of the couple, suddenly flickered to life. But instead of wedding photos, something very different appeared. It was the footage from the stairwell. Troy and Jace, unmistakably intimate, their relationship crystal clear. The audio was loud enough for everyone to hear the whispered endearments, the sounds that left no room for interpretation. Gasps erupted throughout the venue. Lynn's face went white as a sheet. Troy spun around, frantically looking for the source of the video. Jace looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. What the hell is this? Someone shouted from the crowd. Is that Troy? Oh my God, is that the best man? This can't be real. Lynn stood frozen at the altar, her bouquet slipping from her trembling hands. She looked at Troy, then at the screen, then back at Troy. Tell me this isn't real, she whispered. Tell me this is some kind of sick joke. Troy reached for her, panic written all over his face. Lynn, I can explain. But she stepped back, shaking her head violently. You're pregnant with his child, someone yelled. And he's been sleeping with men? The crowd erupted into chaos. Some were outraged, some were scandalized, some were taking pictures and videos. My mother had gone pale, clutching her chest. I stood up and calmly walked over to her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. Mom, maybe you should sit down. She looked at me with wild eyes. Did you know? Did you know about this? I met her gaze without flinching. Would you have believed me if I told you? Her silence was answer enough. In my past life, I tried to warn them, and I'd been slapped and called a liar. This time, I let them see the truth for themselves. Lynn was screaming now, her voice shrill and broken. How could you? I'm carrying your baby. How could you do this to me? Troy was trying to explain, his words tumbling over each other. It's not what you think. Jace and I were just, it was a mistake. But Jace had had enough. A mistake? He spat. Troy, don't insult me. We've been together for years. You think you can just throw me away now that it's convenient? The revelation sent another shockwave through the crowd. Years? Lynn repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Security was trying to restore order, but it was useless. The damage was done. The wedding, the beautiful, perfect wedding my sister had dreamed of, was destroyed. I watched as Lynn stumbled off the stage, still in her white gown. She looked lost, broken. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy, but then I remembered how she'd laughed when Troy killed me in my past life. How she'd never questioned it, never sought justice for her own sister. My mother was sobbing now, demanding answers. Who did this? Who would do something so cruel? I shrugged. Maybe someone who thought Lynn deserved to know the truth before legally binding herself to a lie. The venue was clearing out now, guests fleeing from the scandal, not wanting to be associated with the spectacle. Troy and Jace were arguing in angry whispers. Lynn was sitting on the floor, her expensive wedding dress pooling around her, staring at nothing. I walked over to her. Lynn, I said softly. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. You did this, didn't you? She whispered. You ruined my wedding. I crouched down to her level. No, Lynn, Troy ruined your wedding. I just made sure you found out before it was too late to walk away. I paused, letting that sink in. In another life, I tried to warn you. You called me jealous. Mom slapped me. Troy had me killed to keep his secret. So this time, I decided to let you learn the hard way. Her face crumpled. Killed? What are you talking about? I stood up, smoothing down my dress. You'll never believe me anyway, but let me give you some advice. Get as far away from Troy as you can. He's not worth it. As I turned to leave, I heard her sob behind me. But I love him, and I'm pregnant with his baby. I didn't turn around. Then I guess you'll have to decide what's more important, your pride or your child's future. I walked away, leaving her there in the ruins of her perfect day. Outside the venue, I took a deep breath of fresh air. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful. Really. My phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. You think you're so clever. You have no idea what you've started. I smiled and deleted the message. Let them threaten, let them scheme. I'd already died once. What more could they do to me? Days passed. The scandal was everywhere. Social media, gossip columns, even mainstream news. Groom caught in gay affair at own wedding. The headline screamed. Troy's business suffered. Jace went into hiding. And Lynn? She came to see me a week later. She looked terrible. Eyes sunken, skin pale, clearly not sleeping or eating well. I need to talk to you, she said when I opened the door. I let her in without a word. We sat in my living room, a silence heavy between us. Were you telling the truth? She finally asked. About being killed in another life? I studied her face. Does it matter? Even if I told you yes, would you believe me? She didn't answer. I saw the truth with my own eyes, Tiana. Troy and Jace, they weren't just friends. They'd been together for years, apparently. I know, I said simply. She looked at me with anguish. How long have you known? I found out in my past life, on your wedding day. I tried to tell you, and you called me jealous. Mom slapped me. Troy had me killed shortly after, to keep his secret. She was crying now. I don't understand. If you knew, why didn't you stop me this time? Why didn't you tell me before it got this far? I leaned back on the couch. I tried that before. It didn't work. So this time, I decided to let you see for yourself. The truth is always more convincing when you discover it on your own. But I'm pregnant, she whispered. I'm having his baby. What am I supposed to do now? I looked at her without sympathy. That's your decision to make. Keep the baby, don't keep the baby. I can't tell you what to do. But whatever you choose, do it for yourself, not for Troy. She wiped her eyes. Do you hate me? The question caught me off guard. Did I hate her? I thought about it carefully. I did, I admitted. In my past life, you never questioned what happened to me. You just lived your life with Troy, happy and oblivious, while I was dead in the ground. But now I'm just indifferent. You made your choices, and you have to live with the consequences. She stood up to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. If what you said is true about another life, then I'm sorry I didn't believe you. Save your apologies, I said. They don't change anything. After she left, I sat alone in the quiet. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel, the joy of revenge, wasn't there. Instead, I just felt empty, tired. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jace, asking to meet. I hesitated, then agreed. Why not? The show wasn't quite over yet. We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Jace looked different, haunted somehow. The confidence and beauty that had been so striking before were dimmed. I told you, he said without preamble. I told you that you didn't want to mess with me. I rested my chin on my hand, waiting for him to continue. He pulled out another phone, swiped for a moment, then placed it on the table facing me. I squinted at the screen and instinctively frowned. They were photos of me. Intimate photos, obviously doctored, but convincing enough to cause damage. Jace gripped my chin, his tone menacing. 3 million. Just 3 million and I'll leave this place. Disappear forever. I let out a light chuckle and patted the back of his hand, signaling for him to let go. He seemed taken aback by my calmness and released me.
I picked up my coffee cup,
Took a sip, and said coolly, "And what if I refuse?" His fists clenched. "If you don't pay, these photos will be all over the internet in half an hour. As I recall, your mother has a heart condition. Elderly people can't handle shock. If your dear mother saw her precious daughter's nude photos plastered everywhere, she might not survive. It could kill her. Think about it, Tiana. Your sister's reputation and your mother's life for 3 million. It's a bargain, and I know you can afford it." I listened quietly, then fell into contemplation with a brief silence. After a long pause, I put on a helpless expression. Jace looked relieved, but then I smiled. "I refuse." His face fell. I pulled out the phone I'd hidden under the table and pressed stop on the recording. "Go ahead and send those photos to whoever you want. My mom doesn't want to live anymore anyway. Maybe after she's gone, she'll even thank you in a dream for helping her go quickly without all the suffering. Besides," I continued, "I've recorded everything you just said. Later, I'll be formally charging you with extortion. And distributing someone's private photos violates their right to privacy and constitutes a crime. If you don't mind spending a few extra years in prison, go right ahead and post them. I stood up and offered Jace one last faint smile. Finish your coffee. It's on me. You probably won't get to enjoy anything this good for a long time. As I stepped out of the cafe, I caught my reflection in the glass. My face was expressionless, eyelids half lowered, like a stone statue, cold, hard, detached, and unapproachable. Yet I was perfectly content with the person I saw. The city center was bustling with traffic, and pedestrians came and went in a steady stream. There were plenty of independent, self-assertive individuals, striding purposefully ahead, concerned only with their own urgent pursuits. Who says we have to be kind? Who says we can't fight back? I don't care if Jace actually releases those photos, nor do I care about my mother's breakdown and ordeal. All the tears I had to shed were spent on that long night in my past life. A breeze passed by. I reached up to tuck a stray strand of hair behind my ear and moved on without looking back. Instead, I moved forward, leaving all the painful past behind. Before me lies an entirely new world,